What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're here in the shop tonight and we're going to do a service on the semi and change the oil, grease it, go over everything, inspect everything. I picked up all this stuff here at Tractor Supply. I usually do my shopping at Napa, but I messed around and waited until they closed today, so I had to go to Tractor Supply. I'm trying out a new camera mount and a different camera than I usually film with, so I don't know how well this is going to go. Hopefully the video turns out okay. I think it'll allow me to get some extra shots that I wasn't able to get before on certain things, different angles and whatnot. So we'll see how that turns out. This is a different grease that I usually use. I usually use a Chevron red grease, and that's probably what I'm going to use this time because I still have some in stock. But I picked this up so that I wouldn't be out. I like to keep an extra, case on hand or whatever in case you need to grease something, grease the fifth wheel or whatever. I picked up this funnel. The funnel I usually use is a plastic red one, and it does not work all that well. I've seen this and I thought it might. I'll show you in a second why. I think it might work better. The engineers engineered the oil fill spout on this truck. I'm not sure what they were smoking or thinking, but anyways, it's not the best design in the world, let's put it that way. Picked up a gallon of Lucas, bag of oil dry, and I picked up the oil in 5-gallon buckets because that's all they had it in. I usually buy the gallon jugs at Napa. I buy it in a case. There's 3 jugs in a case, and I get 4 cases is what I usually do. But as I say, I messed around and Napa closed before I got there. So this is what Tractor Supply keeps in stock. I don't like buying it this way because it's hard to put in the truck, and that's why I got the funnel. Usually the way the fill spout is on the truck, you have to hold a funnel up there, and you can pour, a 1 gallon like this, you're able to hold that and pour it in there. But when you get up to a 5-gallon bucket size, or even the 2.5-gallon jugs, you cannot really hold that up and try to hold the funnel. It doesn't really work that well. I picked up some windshield washer fluid that they got me on. If you notice, one of them's a little different color than the other. I didn't discover this till after I got back, but if you look right here, this has been open, and I think what happened was either somebody used it and put some water in it and carried it back to the store, or it got spilt in shipping because the cap was left loose and somebody watered it down and carried it back to the store. I'm not sure which, but I wasn't going back to get $2 back on a bottle of windshield washer fluid. Sometimes I add water to it anyways if I'm out, so it'll work. So let me get you guys set up over here in a different position and we'll get started. Alright guys, this is a whole new angle. I use a Lincoln grease gun. I like the fact that it has a screen on it right here, and you can see how many ounces you're putting in. As you can see right now, we're 0 ounces. I just put a new grease tube in it, and it has a little light here because sometimes you're in these spots and you cannot get a good vision on it. But we have a grease zerk right here on the bottom of our steering rod. I've already kind of wiped some of these off with this shop towel. It's a good way to get grease all over you, but anyways, got to be done. So we got that one, and then we have one on the back here on the same rod. Got to go up and over to get to. That lock and lube coupler I got on there is really nice because you don't have to hold it on there generally. Then you have one that's supposed to be right here, but it's gotten broke off. I'm gonna have to do something about that. I don't know if I can get that out of there or if it's made in. Some of them are not removable. I need to look at that and see. But you have one on your lower kingpin right here. Got to clean that dirt and stuff off of there. A lot of people like to jack up the truck whenever you grease these right here. That way the grease comes out around evenly. I am not going to do that right now, but a lot of people like to do it that way. You have one on the bottom of your slack adjuster right here. It has to be greased. Get another shop towel over there. And you can see it start pushing out the sides over here and out the back. That is enough. And you have one on your S-cam bushings right here. That's what that's for. And you got to watch on these. If you put too much, you can push that stuff into your brake drum. If that seal in there is not real good. And that coupler is not doing too great right now. But you can see it start coming out right here, so we're good. And I'm gonna have to come back and wipe up all this extra grease. Getting all over everywhere. Anyway, we got one more right here on the top, and I'm gonna get to it standing up. So I will come around on the outside and get to it standing up. That's your upper kingpin. And that about does this side here. Then you got to do the same thing on the other side, and then we have one on our steering up there, the steering U-joint on the gearbox. It makes it a little bit easier if you turn the tire to the left. You can get to this easier, and then on the other side you have to turn it back to the right. I'm just doing them with it straight. Get to that kingpin right there. I see it pushing out. All right, this right here is the grease circ that I was talking about earlier on your steering gear that you want to check. I'm going to wait till I get the oil changed and everything, get the truck back running, and that way we can turn the steering wheel and get it where I can access that. It's a good idea to check over everything while you're here. You want to rock the steering box, make sure you don't see any play in any of your steering gear down there while you're doing that. Just kind of check everything, make sure everything's good and tight and all that stuff. All right guys, on your drive axle back here, all we got is this grease circ right here for our S-cam bushings, and we got our slack adjuster just like on the front that has a grease circ on the bottom side of it. And I'm not going to be able to get up under there with a camera because there's no light down there, but trust me, it's got one. Certain things you do, certain trailers will have, instead of having one grease circ here for your S-cam bushings, they'll have an inner and an outer out here somewhere beside your slack adjuster, but this one doesn't. It just has one that fills this tube up with grease. And as I say, you want to be careful whenever you're pumping grease in there, because if the seal inside of here is bad or out, it will start pumping grease in your brake drum. So keep in mind of that, and good idea to, you know, crawl up under there and check and make sure you're not filling your brake drum full of grease, because then you'll have no brakes. So anyway, let me put a little bit of grease in that right there, and I'm gonna get up under there and go ahead and grease those slack adjusters and everything, and look over everything. This truck does not have greasable U-joints, so we do not have to worry about that on this truck. My old truck did, so you would have to grease, you know, your U-joints on the short shaft and on your long shaft. There's a total of 5 U-joints. None of that's greasable on this truck. The slip yokes aren't greasable on the drive shaft or any of that. So we don't have to worry about that. Just gonna grease those S-cams and slack adjusters. All right guys, we got everything greased up all over the truck, looked over everything, everything looks good. One thing I wanted to share with you is that little needle tip right there for a grease gun is very, very handy in certain situations. You can stick that on a little ball thing on the end of the Alamite, and push it up there snug and actually grease it. And if you're in a situation where this big part of this coupler won't fit, or if it's a little off camber or something right there, that right there will get the job done. So that's a Lock and Lube extended coupler, and I don't know what that little needle tip is. I don't remember, but this is a grease gun. I'll put a link in some of this stuff if I can find it again. We used 8.5 ounces of grease, and we'll put a tube on the fifth wheel when we get done. We latch it back up to the trailer, and that should be enough grease to grease the trailer as well. So about 1 tube of grease, grease the whole thing. If you don't have to grease U-joints. Now, if you got to grease the U-joints, on my other truck, it usually would take about 1 ounce of grease per U-joint. So an additional about another half a tube. So depending on if you got greasable U-joints or if you don't. So anyway, just want to share that with you. I've had this grease gun here for several years, and so far it's been a good one. The only issue that I have or don't like about it is, you know, it uses Lincoln specific batteries. But I hadn't had a problem with the batteries. It's just, you know, if you have DeWalt or Milwaukee, on one hand it makes sense to stay with their platform to keep the batteries you already have, so you don't have to, you know, invest in this setup. But I like the fact that you could see how many ounces of grease that you were putting in the U-joints or ball joints, kingpins, whatever the case, or your S-cam bushings. I just like the fact that you could see the amount of ounces going in there. So that's why I went with the Lincoln. Anyway, it's been a pretty good grease gun. And I'll put it up, we're done greasing, and we're going to get started on this oil change over here. So what I like to do that works well on this Volvo here is I've got some 4x6 treated blocks of wood here. This was like an 8-foot long post, and basically you cut it in half and cut an angle on it like that, and you can drive up on it. That gets your front end up about 3.5 inches higher, makes it easier for you to get up under there and get the oil filter off and get the drain plug out and all that stuff, and as well to grease it. So that's what I like to do. If you have a long nose truck or something higher off the ground, you may not have to do that. Also, on these Volvos, they have an air ride front axle that you have to keep in mind that it will settle down. So anyway, that's what I always do. Makes it easier than jacking up. This is my oil drain pan here. You guys have been watching the channel for a long time. You know that I built this. This was a toolbox, an underbody toolbox, and I made an oil drain pan out of it because the door got crushed on the toolbox, and basically I had to get another one. And so you cannot buy a lid for these particular boxes. It's a Tractor Supply box. So put some casters on it, made an oil drain pan out of it, and it works really well for draining big truck oil and that sort of stuff. So I've got the oil drain pan positioned right there. As you can see the drain plug down there, and I'm going to go ahead and drain the oil out first, and then we'll worry about getting the filter off. So these Cummins just take a 1/2 inch drive ratchet, it goes right in the plug right there. And I like to use an extended handle ratchet here because for whatever reason, these oil drains plugs always seem to be tighter than what you put them in there. And that extended handle really helps out. And so, unscrew the plug there. And let the black gold fly. There you are. I always find it best to let the truck sit for, you know, an hour or two. If you grease it, or if you let it sit overnight, go ahead and position it. If you're doing this at your house or whatever and you have time, it lets the you know, the oil drain out from the top of the engine. It's not hot. A lot of people like to do it when it's hot because it flows out faster, but you also risk burning yourself And the oil filter, whenever you take the oil filter off, it's always hot and it runs down the side of it. If you let it set for a while and cool down, whenever you unscrew the oil filter, oil doesn't go everywhere. And you can let it sit here and drain for 20 minutes or whatever if it takes that long or whatever. So I'm going to let this drain. I'm not in any big hurry. And we'll let it drain until it stops dripping out of there. Alright guys, I've got some specific additives here that I like to add to this particular engine. This is a 06 model ISX, Cummins ISX, and they were known to have camshaft problems. I had another truck that was an 04 model. I had problems with the camshafts. I know other people that had this engine had problems with the camshafts. So I started putting this zinc in there. I put 3 bottles of this in there, 1 gallon of Lucas, and then my engine oil. You're not supposed to use this on a truck with the DPF, so 2007 and newer. And so I would not use it on that, but these here engines were designed when the oil had more zinc in it back in 2006 before they started taking the zinc out of the oil. So I think it's a good idea to add that. Whether it is or not, I don't know. I guess time will tell. That's what I do. I've already added the oil and the Lucas to it, as well as the zinc. I did not realize that I had the camera turned off. When I mounted it up there, I mashed the button and it put it in picture taking mode instead of video mode. So anyways, I'm going to finish topping the oil off here. This works pretty good with this this funnel here. It's not too bad and it comes out pretty quick, and it's a pretty good brace right there on the fender to be able to hold it, hold the jug, so it's not too bad. I may start buying it like this. It's a little bit cheaper, 15 or 20 bucks cheaper on an oil change to buy it like this. I've just always got it in the case at Napa because it's so much easier. But this funnel here makes this manageable. And you always got a spare 5-gallon bucket laying around you use for something or other. So that's that. We'll start it up here in a little bit. I actually may wait till tomorrow because this thing got way on up in the middle of the night or middle of the morning. And I'll actually wait till tomorrow to do that. That way I don't wake the neighbors up. I'm sure they don't really care for me to start the truck up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I do it when I have to, but I can wait because I got some other stuff I want to, little knickknacks I want to go over, and I may go ahead and wash it and everything tomorrow anyways. Put some windshield washer fluid in there, some watered down windshield washer fluid that somebody done jipped me off on. The oil filter over there is in a really bad location to be able to film. I didn't even need much of that. Didn't use much this past time. Anyway, it's in a really bad spot to film the oil filter in order to get a good shot of that, but it's nothing too difficult to it. I just use these big channel locks to take the oil filter off. As I say, I can't really show it. The lighting's not good enough you can see anything, but grab the oil filter with that, unscrew it, and put the new one on, make sure it's tight. Nothing real spectacular there. Let me get this funnel out of here. That funnel works quite well. I do say so myself. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up because, well, it's getting kind of late. I don't want to start this thing up and wake the neighbors up again. I'm sure I did that a couple hours ago whenever I brought it in here. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up tomorrow. A couple little things, knick-knack stuff. I'm going to go over, check everything out, as I say, and get this thing out of here. And then I will back the trailer up in here and grease it. It's basically the same thing that I showed you on the rear back there. You have S-cam bushing, grease zerk, and a slack adjuster grease zerk. My last trailer had 3 grease zerks per wheel. This one only has 2, because I say on the tube for your S-cam bushings, on the newer stuff, most of them only has 1. My older trailer had an inner and outer. It's just a couple different styles of it. So anyway, I'll get that done tomorrow. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. That way I can edit it, get it uploaded, and hopefully it turns out okay with this new camera setup. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.